Perfect Property does not hire cleaning workers. Instead, we will outsource cleaning services to Clear and Clean. However, Clear and Clean further subcontracts some of its cleaning work, creating a complex employment chain that makes it difficult for us to track the working condition and labour right compliance. So, how is Perfect Property linked into this situation? Number one, it will be due to our lack of monitoring and oversight. Because workers are hired through multiple subcontractors, Perfect Property does not directly monitor their working condition. This increases the risk of exploitation. And also, due to Clear and Clean lack of transparency, we are unaware about the subcontracting practices, and we just assume that the workers are fairly treated without any verification. Number two, financial pressure leading to underpayment. Cost-cutting pressures placed on Clear and Clean have likely forced them to accept below-market contract. This indirectly pressures the subcontractor to reduce the wage and working condition to remain competitive. As a result, cleaning workers have to face long working hours without break, and they are paid below market rate. This comes with no benefits such as sick leave or holiday pay as well. Number three, lack of due diligence and legal accountability. Since Perfect Property does not directly employ these workers, we have avoided the direct legal and ethical accountability for their treatment. We did not conduct any background checks, confirm whether Clear and Clean comply with the labour law, or conduct audits or compliance review before engaging into any of their services. Because of this, Perfect Property has indirectly contributed to the exploitation of cleaning workers, as they have been facing harsh conditions with little to no protection. Moving on, we'll be talking about the few warning signs that suggest the presence of modern slavery. There was a few warning signs that suggest the presence of modern slavery among the cleaning workforce in Perfect Property building. Number one, debt bondage. Many workers are forced to pay a high recruitment fee, which traps them in a financial debt. For example, Jose, a migrant worker, was promised a job and accommodations by a subcontractor, but later on he found out that his wage was being deducted to cover the excessive accommodation costs. This left him financially trapped. Number two, the lack of employment contract and job security. Many workers did not receive a formal employment contract, and this results in a low job security and legal uncertainty regarding their rights. Number three, underpayment. Some workers are underpaid, while others report that some of their wages are withheld. This prevents them from meeting the basic living expenses. Number four, excessive work hours and forced labor. Cleaners are often pressured to work beyond their work hours without the fair compensation or rest. This is resembling the forced labor condition. Number five, threat and retaliation. Complaints about working conditions are met with intimidation, threats of dismissal, or even visa cancellation. This is making it difficult for the workers to speak out and feedback to the company. The testimonies from cleaning staff reveals a serious human rights violation. Some workers are living in overcrowded housing and face wage deduction for accommodations. Others report being forced to work unpaid overtime with no choice but to comply. Many fear speaking out about the poor conditions they are facing due to the risk of losing their job or visas. This suggests that Perfect Property is indirectly contributing to the labour exploitation and potential modern slavery through its outsourcing practice and lack of due diligence.
We have identified 4 principles from the UNGPS that addresses Perfect Property's current responsibility. Firstly, according to Principle 13, the responsibility to respect human rights. A company may be causing harm, contributing to harm, and being linked to harm. These lead to human rights abuse. Perfect Properties may contribute to harm by enforcing these low-cost contracts and is linked to harm through Clear and Clean's subcontracting. Perfect Properties should conduct investigations on its involvement with Clear and Clean's human rights abuse, identify the subcontractors' workers, and review contract obligations with Clear and Clean. The second principle we have identified is Principle 17, to conduct human rights due diligence. Businesses should evaluate, prevent, and reduce human rights abuse risk throughout its operations and supply chain. However, Perfect Properties have never examined whether Clear and Clean's low-cost cleaning contract will lead to workers' exploitation. Perfect Properties should have conduct risk assessments, supplier audits, interviews with workers, and to review Clear and Clean's compliance to human rights regulations. Thirdly, we have Principle 21. Businesses are to communicate their human rights efforts externally by being transparent. Companies should communicate their human rights efforts to the public, including to its investors, customers, suppliers, and government, when needed. Perfect Properties should publish its findings and remedies to workers, communicate with investors and stakeholders on initiatives and further actions. It can also implement a new annual supply report to ensure its parties' compliance with regulations. Last but not least, we have Principle 22. Businesses are to cooperate and or provide remedies to workers. If and when the company is involved in contributing to harm towards others, it must take the initiative to rectify the situation. Perfect Properties could ensure fair wage and access to employment contracts. They should be accountable by demanding Clear and Clean to end its exploitative subcontracting and implement stricter procurement policies. Perfect Properties' next step is split into three parts: immediate actions, short-term solutions, and long-term approaches. Perfect Properties' immediate action should include launching an internal investigation by conducting urgent supplier audits, interviewing cleaner workers, engage directly with Clean and Clear to demand for information about their subcontracting and employment records. They should also acquire evidence of fair wages to workers and compliance to regulations. We could provide support to affected workers by ensuring workers like Jose receive fair wages. Short-term solutions are usually for about 6 to 12 months. And Perfect Properties could start by implementing a stricter procurement policy. We could start by introducing a supplier code of conduct. Perfect Properties can increase transparency between parties by requiring Clear and Clean to disclose its subcontracting details and conduct regular audits. If Clear and Clean still does not comply to legal regulations in 6 to 12 months, after notice, Perfect Properties should switch to another CAF certified company immediately. Long-term approaches are more sustainable preventions for the company. Perfect Properties could start by adopting human rights due diligence process by developing an internal team that could gauge and regulate human rights risks. Perfect Properties could collab with companies in the industry to join initiatives like the Cleaning Accountability Framework (CAF) and work with human rights NGOs to regularly monitor working conditions. Perfect Properties could also develop support systems for workers by providing them with training on ethical sourcing and labor laws, allowing them to know about their own rights.
To directly answer the superannuation fund's question, Perfect Properties has a high risk of modern slavery within its supply chain. This conclusion is based on clear indicators of labor exploitation, including debt bondage and wage theft, where workers face unfair wage reductions for employer provided accommodation, leaving them financially dependent, lack of employment contracts, where many cleaners work without legal contracts, making them vulnerable to abuse and job insecurity. Subcontracting without oversight, where the company has no transparency over subcontracted workers, increasing the risk of unethical labor practices. Underpayment and excessive working hours, where workers receive wages below the legal minimum and are forced to work long hours and lack basic benefits such as sick leave. Given the evidence, Perfect Properties must act immediately to address modern slavery risk in its supply chain by enforcing supplier accountability, ensuring fair labor conditions, and committing to long-term transparency. The company can restore investor confidence by rectifying past mistakes and set itself a higher standard for labor rights, and uphold ethical business standards. Thank you.